It began like any other night. I was sitting alone in the living room, flipping through channels on the TV, trying to find something worth watching. My wife had gone upstairs to bed early, exhausted from work. I wasn't paying attention to the time when suddenly I noticed movement outside the window. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe a bird had flown past, or maybe a car drove by, causing the reflection on the glass to shift ever so slightly. But then when I looked closer, I realized the shadow didn't look quite right. It moved differently than anything natural should. And as I watched, frozen in place, the shadow detached itself from whatever was casting it and started gliding across the lawn towards our house. My heart raced as I considered calling out to my wife or grabbing the phone and dialing 911. But then reason kicked in. There were no lights on in the windows, so no one could see what was happening outside. Plus, we lived in a quiet neighborhood and rarely had any problems with crime. So naturally, my next assumption was that it was probably just some prankster hiding behind a tree or bush, waiting for me to turn off the lights so they could jump out and scare us. As I waited for something else to happen, however, I realized the shadow hadn't reappeared anywhere. Instead, it seemed to dissolve into thin air, disappearing without a trace. Shaking my head and rubbing my eyes to clear them, I went back to channel surfing until eventually falling asleep myself. When I woke up the next morning, everything felt normal again. For several days, in fact, I managed to push aside the memory of that strange occurrence. Until one evening when I came home from work, that same feeling of unease crept over me once more. This time, as I entered our kitchen, I caught sight of movement reflected in the glass pane above the sink. Heart thumping wildly, I reached slowly for the light switch, only to stop halfway when I heard my son cry as I lay there trembling. I couldn't help but wonder how such a thing could have happened. How did these shadows get into our home? Why were they targeting us specifically? What kind of malevolent force could move beyond mere reflections or shades, steering away from walls and floors as it chose? Were they connected to the legends I'd found online earlier? Or worse yet, did the monks awaken something far greater than they intended all those centuries ago? The questions swirled inside my skull like a cyclone, leaving me breathless and afraid to venture further. Over the next few weeks, we tried different remedies to keep the shadows at bay. We installed heavy curtains on every exposed window, sealed cracks in the foundation, and burned candles throughout the house day and night. Nothing worked. The darkness continued to leak into our lives like an infectious disease, slowly poisoning everything it touched. Our nerves remained raw, causing constant arguments between each member of our household. Tempers flared, tears shed, love turned to hate as hope dwindled alongside sanity. Then, one afternoon during a particularly intense argument, things took an unexpected turn. "Enough!" cried my mother-in-law from her chair in the corner. Her voice crackled with age, commanding respect despite the failing body imprisoned inside it. "All of you need to calm down and listen." I stumbled backwards, still clutching the empty coffee mug I held minutes prior. Confusion spread across the faces of both Jackie and Gigi unsure why their grandmother would speak so boldly to them. My anger melted away under her sharp gaze, replaced instead with concern. Something was definitely amiss in her demeanor. Was she ill? Had we missed some sort of warning sign? She coughed softly, pushing herself upright with difficulty. Slowly, deliberately, she rose to her feet, swaying dangerously close to falling over before catching hold of the nearby end table. With great effort she leaned forward, whispering urgently to Jackie and I. "You too," she began. "You have always had the potential." A chill ran down my spine as I listened to her words. They echoed the fears I'd suppressed since discovering the connection between this spirit and those who bound it long ago. Could we somehow use their magic against its manifestation, now haunting us? Would summoning the shadows lead us toward victory or make matters worse? Doubts filled my mind, but Grandma's certainty pushed them aside. Time grew short, the shadows growing bolder with each passing hour. If we wanted to save ourselves from complete destruction, following her guidance appeared necessary. Together, we gathered various ingredients, including powdered eggshells and vinegar. These items may seem insignificant compared to a knife, sword, or holy water blessed by a priest, but folklore claimed the spirits feared them nonetheless. One by one, we sprinkled the substances along door frames and windowsills, covering mirrors and pouring liquid onto the floor, where the beasts often materialized. Fear gnawed at the pit of my stomach as if expecting punishment at any moment. Though the preparations were simple enough, actually executing them required far more courage than facing physical adversaries armed with conventional weaponry. When finished with the house, we stepped outside near the garage, holding salt mixed with sulfur aloft while reciting incantations. My voice cracked repeatedly during this process, lack of practice making perfect impossible. Each word emerged haltingly from dry lips. Every gesture felt uncoordinated, but everyone pressed onward, hoping to succeed. After completing the final circle, we paused to rest in silence, senses heightened to detect changes lurking within. Minutes dragged into hours as we huddled together, waiting impatiently for signs of success or failure. Without warning, a loud crash sounded from the basement below. Tremors shook the ground beneath my shoes as whispers emanating from deep within grew rapidly stronger. Panic set in when the voices crescendoed, threatening to burst forth in full chaotic glory. We knew instinctually our actions failed miserably, serving only teardrum. Blood splattered across the makeshift altar as our enemy erupted in a burst of black mist, engulfing the room in shadowy tendrils, reaching outwards with deadly intent. Chaos exploded around us, bodies flying through the air amid screams of agony. Before long, nothing remained but ruined flesh, bloodied clothes, and scattered salt. A piercing headache shot through my brain upon reopening my eyes, accompanied by dizziness that forced me to grab the nearest wall for balance. Disoriented and shaking, I struggled to remember what transpired moments ago. Gradually, coherence returned, revealing the truth behind our disaster. The ritual backfired due to my hesitation and subsequent fear. Instead of banishing our supernatural foe, we created a door permitting passage for countless others like it to freely enter the mortal realm. By attempting to protect his family, Grandma unwittingly placed us in imminent peril, requiring immediate solutions beyond imagination's grasp. Frustration, despair, guilt, and panic consumed me. Unleashing demons and otherworldly creatures on Earth seemed like an impossibility until witnessing their destructive power firsthand. This mess was entirely our responsibility to rectify without delay. How could we repair the damage done, knowing the price might include our own lives sacrificed in service to humanity? And to think, just days earlier, I laughed at the ridiculousness of horror movies. Never again would I find humor or safety within entertainment mediums. In this grim new reality, fearful phantoms and fiendish specters no longer constituted fictional constructs used to frighten children, but tangible terrors capable of snuffing life from anyone who crossed paths with them, including yours truly. The line between fantasy and reality became indistinguishable. All preconceived notions concerning normalcy vanished instantly without possibility of resurrection. For just $3 a month, you can have your name featured in my YouTube videos and descriptions. Not only will you be supporting my channel, but you'll also be immortalized in the credits of my content. If you're looking for something a bit more personalized, consider becoming a $25 a month patron. I'll voice your stories and bring them to life on my channel. Create a special drawing just for you, or even write a unique story tailored to your interests. So don't hesitate. Join my patron community today and help me keep the spooky stories coming. And remember, together we can save each other from the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for your support.